Welcome to 22nd edition of Solution Illuminators podcast. I'm excited to be here, and I'm here with my guest, the most versatile Kate Onakomaiya. Thank you for being here, Kate.
Thank you for inviting me, Tolu.
Thank you so much. I know you wear a lot of caps, and if I start reading your bio, we're not going to leave here today. But it's important to say that this is the book, The Growing Life, that we're going to be
Yeah.
talking about today.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have that too, so we can both show that as we go through the session.
Mm.
You're a coach. We're both a coach with John Maxwell team. You're ahead of me. You're also part of the executive there and doing so many great things with the John Maxwell team as a coach, a trainer, and a speaker. But then beyond that, we want to talk about growth. One of the things that I've experienced in life is we as humans, we look at blessings that other people have. We like what they have, and we think we should have what they have because it's good, it's nice. But
Mhm.
the problem is sometimes we find it very difficult to work on ourselves to grow into such opportunity so that we can enjoy it. But instead of that, we become jealous, bitter, and really angry at other people that are having what we desire to have.
Mhm.
And that's why a conversation like this is very important.
Yeah.
From John C. Maxwell, growth is the only guarantee that tomorrow will be better.
Mhm.
Growth is the only guarantee that tomorrow will be better. From William Somerset Morgan, only a mediocre person is always at his best. Hence, we want to talk about growth as seen in your book, The Growing Life. So, what does growth mean to you as a person?
Yeah. So thank you. That's a really good question. For me, growth is committing to living life in full. It is really tapping into that that thing inside of us. There is, I believe, each of us has a desire to be more, to have more, and to do more. And growth is actually tapping into that pull, that desire inside of us to reach out for more, to be more. So when you start taking active, doing things to be more, improving on yourself, learning, asking questions, and just putting yourself in spaces where you can express that desire fully, then you start becoming more, you start doing more, and you definitely have more. So that is growth to me. It's actually expressing that desire inside of us to be more, to have more, and to do more.
Wow, to have more, to be more, and to do more. And you
Yeah.
say there are certain questions that's supposed to be asked, that people are supposed to ask themselves. And
Mhm.
one of the things I also enjoy in your book is you mentioned certain areas that we are supposed to prioritize when we're growing. Generally, what would you say about that? What kind of questions and what kind of areas of our life do you think is very important to consider when we're thinking about growth?
Right. Let me take a step back. You said something in the beginning where people see, you see your neighbors, you see others doing things, and you want to be like them, and you want to do like them, and you feel there's something special about them. You know, there isn't anything special about them. The other day, I stood at my window and I looked at my neighbor's lawns on both sides, and both lawns were looking greener and fresher than mine. Then I wonder why. Why is my lawn not as green as my neighbor's? So as I reflected on that, I realized that my neighbors spend more time tending to their lawns than I do. They water it, they mow it, very frequently. They have a schedule that they follow to keep their loans. And they've been doing that longer than I have. This is kind of like the first time I have a big loan on both sides, front and back of my home. So I am still learning in the process of keeping a loan. So when we look at others who are growing, who seem better than us, it's the same thing. They spend time doing stuff to be better. They improve, they read, they tend to different areas of their lives. They do not just spend, like, I would just mow my lawn, rake it, and go, but my neighbors won't do that. There are different things they do to keep their lawns, and I'm observing and learning. Okay, so that said, there are 6 areas that I believe we need to focus on when we are growing. Because if we focus on just one area, like I do, when I just mow my lawn, rake it and go, that doesn't help a lot. So 6 areas. 1, your physical and mental well-being, your spiritual well-being, your financial well-being, work, career satisfaction, relationship with self and others. And is that 6 already?
No.
Okay. No, that's not 6 already. What did I miss out? I wasn't counting. Let me check.
Well-being, spiritual.
Yeah. Your spiritual well-being, your physical well-being, physical and mental, spiritual well-being, physical and mental well-being, financial well-being, work, career satisfaction, meaningful growth and development, and financial well-being. I guess, yeah.
Good. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the things that is very important is being able to grow beyond oneself, having a mindset to grow. You mentioned reading.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I find very interesting is your habit to read that you mentioned in your book,
Yeah.
Growing Life.
Yes.
And the story that you told about your dad was very interesting. I know how it feels to not have a dad anymore because I don't have a dad anymore.
Mm.
And it was more emotional for me reading your book yesterday because yesterday was his birthday and I had to remember. But in your own case, you actually lost your dad when you were 13,
Yes.
1-3.
Yeah.
How has that shaped who you have become, and what are the lessons that you think people can learn from those experiences that you had up till now?
Okay. So my dad has been gone, it's over 30 years now, 32 years to be exact. Yeah. It's even now thinking about it, it's still like very fresh. Somehow you never get used to missing your loved ones when they're gone. It just becomes easier to bear it over time. So my dad was an avid reader. I mean, I used to watch him devour books. And I got curious. So every time I see him devouring a book, I'll just wait. When he's done with that book, I'll pick it up and go and read it. And I was really young. This is between 9 to 13, right? When I learned to read really early. I learned to read very early. I mean, read very well. And I recall when I was in primary 2, my teachers, the higher primary teachers used to come to my class and take me to the higher primaries to read in front of the class, just to show them an example of how to read. All right, so because I was reading off my dad's books, yeah, and I love stories. They were fascinating. And that habit of reading, I kept it. It never died because reading was just part of. I read everything. I read my books, read my sister's books. I mean, they're textbooks. I'm talking about my textbooks. They are textbooks. I was a science student, but I read all my sister's literature books, all her history books. So I was always looking for something to read. Yeah, so that's how fascinated I was with reading. So I was that kind of kid you could call a bookworm, always engrossed in a book. And right now, it's still the same thing. I read, not as voraciously, but I read widely.
Mhm.
Every day I read. It's just natural for me to read something every day. Magazines, articles, news, books, I read every day.
Wow, excellent, excellent.
Mm.
So you were one of those kids in school that will always remind the teacher if they don't give reading assignments because no.
So I used to annoy my teachers, those kind of kids that would remind the teacher that you have not given us homework today. And the teacher,
Yeah.
maybe it's the day the teacher doesn't have the homework to give. And
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Excellent. Excellent. So I mean, so we're beginning to see that it's very important to grow, but then
Mhm.
the reality is that there's a lot of people that are still not agreeing to this fact that growth is something that is very important.
Mhm.
And it seems that there's always something to do to help them. So if for people who have not really realized that the reason why they are not benefiting, enjoying the opportunities that they are supposed to be enjoying is because they are not working on themselves to grow.
Mhm.
When you do workshops, when you speak, how do you have this conversation with them about, oh, this is the benefit of growth? What are the examples you give? What are the illustrations that you give to ensure that you can change the mindset of such individuals about growth, such that they know it's a continual process and it's something that they have to be intentional about? What can you give us some examples?
Okay. So the most important thing I do is to demystify this, first of all, growth and reading. Most often people think they have to do a lot every day. They think, oh, I must read books like physical books. If I don't read a physical book from cover to cover, then I haven't read a book. And it's very common for me to encounter people in my pro workshops and trainings who haven't read a single book after they left school, whenever they left, maybe high school, college, or after they finish from formal education. So I'll ask them, okay, you're working. Did you read a newspaper yesterday? They said yes. Did you read an article, a work article? Yes. So you must not read a book. There are different avenues you can find to read. The most important thing is be reading something, be enriching your mind, putting something useful into your mind to get your brain to start working, to start thinking. And there are different types of readers. There are people that, if it's not a physical book, they've not read. They
Hmm.
have to literally touch the book before they can say that, oh, I have read. They have to buy the physical newspaper. Nowadays we have e-newspapers, all the major newspapers are online, but there are people who still need to buy the physical papers to read. And I tell them, find out what kind of reader you are. If you need a physical book to touch it, you're a kinesthetic reader. If you need to maybe watch a video about the book or about the author teaching or training on the book, then you're a visual reader. And of course, we have auditory readers who listen to the book. And of course, that's why we have this Kindle readers. Kindle readers are for visual readers, people who have to see it on screen before they can read it. It's better for them. Then we have visual readers. That's why we have apps like Audibles. That's why we have podcasts for people who just need to listen to the material, the book, or the whatever they need to read, and find out which one you are. Where do you lean towards the most? And stay with that. Then take do bite-sized reading frequently. It could be a page, a chapter, or several chapters in a day or week. Just find your pace and stick with it. That will be helpful.
Wow, wow, excellent. Thank you so much. If you're joining now, I'm still with Kate Onakomaiya, and we're talking about our book, The Growing Life. Thank you for your response on that. Hopefully, when you have such conversation with some people, they will eventually decide, well, I want to embark on this growth journey.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing is to be motivated to continue, because it's a continuous process, right?
Right.
And along the way, as humans, we want to see results.
Mm-hmm.
We want to see, hopefully, increase in income and things like that. But unfortunately, that will probably not come immediately. It takes time to do that. So for people who are not seeing the increase in income and things that can be visible in the physical, what are the kind of ways they can motivate themselves to keep going, to keep moving, or to keep pushing in the growth journey? What are the ways to say, well, eventually the increase in income is going to come, maybe after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but then before that time, people tend to become weary and disappointed. So as a coach and a speaker, how do you encourage such people to keep pushing?
I just recall I recall a story of a young man who was in one of my trainings, my mastermind training, and his story was similar. He had not read a book. In fact, his was very, very touching. Not reading books, magazines, no reading at all. So, and we're doing a mastermind on the 15 invaluable laws of growth. So when we started a mastermind, this young man, he was always quiet, not participating. When I ask questions or contributions, he passes. So I gave them a system for reading. We just analyzed the period we had together. I think it was 7 weeks. And then we looked at the number of chapters in the book, the number of pages in the book. Then we set goals based on the number of pages in the book, how many pages you could read a day, a week. And it made it look so easy for them. Oh, if I just read 2 pages a day, that's fine. So that was easy for them to read. And this young man began reading the book. And week 4, after the session, he said he had something to say. And he said, throughout his life, he had never thought of becoming anything better than who he was. He felt life had just dealt him a tough blow, and he needed to be tough, that he had no compassion, that he had even considered taking his life several times. But he said, reading this book, he came to a section where he found out that there is more inside of him. He found out that he has a purpose. He found out that if he just keeps working on himself gradually, he will become a better person. So that day, he committed to becoming a better person. Because he saw how easy and how simple it is to take small steps every day. I am I am a big advocate of small steps taken consistently. And sometimes until we are willing to go deep within, to search inside of us, to find out, okay, what is that thing I have inside of me that has my potential, that if I can just work on it, if I can just bring it out, my life will be better. And when we start doing that inner work, we start attracting people to ourselves. So most often you may not see the results immediately, but that's commitment you make to become a better person. And you start working on it, taking small steps daily, weekly, monthly. You start attracting some things and people to yourself that you were not attracting before. And before you know it, in a short while, you see your life changing for the better. And that would definitely translate to maybe something in your bank account, because what happens with life is built, businesses, life, work, careers, they are based on relationships. We can't run away from that. So relationships. So we need to learn how to, one, build the right relationships, invest in them, nurture them, and just be ready to put ourselves out there as we grow and become better versions of ourselves every day. It's definitely going to translate to something. And John is right when he says that growth is the only guarantee that tomorrow is going to be better.
Wow, excellent, excellent. Thank you for joining. Thank you for the answer. I really agree with you. And we have some people joining us now. Coach and Mr. Adigo Kemotola, thank you for your comments and thank you for joining us during this session. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. Thank you for joining. This journey is very important. And you mentioned something that it's very important to take steps, little steps to move ahead.
Yeah.
And that's something that you said in your book, The Growing Life. It takes about 10,000 hours to develop a weakness to the point of performing at an average level. So that means that it's not just taking steps. You can actually take steps in a wrong direction. You can take steps doing things that you're not supposed to do because somebody else is doing it, but you want to do it.
Yeah.
And I've gone to a lot of comedy shows, music concerts, and I see people flocking to go and enjoy themselves because of just one person discovers something about themselves.
Yeah.
They're giving us their gifts, and we're willing to pay our hard-earned money to go and watch them. And I observe, including myself, moving in direction to go and see such individuals.
Yeah.
And I wonder how many of us that actually do that, move in such direction, have actually discovered something about ourselves that is special, that can also make us to be in that position whereby people will also be willing to pay their hard-earned money to see us. And that will lead to my question that what are the, as a coach and speaking, what are the advice you will give to someone that is still struggling to know a particular area they're supposed to focus on, such that they will not move from their weakness to being average. They will move from something that they're really good at to being the best, to be really good at it. So for people that are still struggling to know what that is for them, so that they can do really well, what are the kind of advice, what hints can you give them to be able to know which particular area they're supposed to focus their growth on, such that they're not just going to be average like anyone else?
Right. The most important thing is to know yourself. Until you know yourself, you cannot grow yourself. So you must know who you are. Who you are will be your personality, your identity, your purpose, your strengths. You need to spend time to do the inner work of discovering yourself. You must be ready to go within to discover who you really are. Because if we focus on the externals, then we're not going to really discover who we are. Go inside, focus on the internal, ask yourself some deep questions. You can even go ahead, you can take some personality tests. There's so many great ones out there like DISC. We have strength tests you can take to discover your strengths. And once you do that, spend time with a coach to help you bring out what is inside of you, the questions that you're asking, to answer those questions that you have inside of you. Once you've done that, as you keep doing that, asking yourself the questions and answering them, because it's not enough to ask those questions, it's important to answer the questions. Most people are not ready to spend time and do the deep work required to know themselves. You need to know yourself at a deeper level and find out, what am I really good at? Where am I called? What's the value or contribution that I need to make in the world? And there's a question that John asks in his book, Intentional Living, that what makes you cry? What makes you laugh? What makes you sing? What keeps you awake at night? Those are great questions to start asking yourself to discover your purpose. And when you spend time answering those questions, it will definitely lead you to a specific area that you're meant to contribute, a specific need that you are called to meet in the world. So I tell people, don't be in a hurry. Yes, it's important to keep doing something. Find whatever your hands find to do it. But always take the time to reflect, to do the deep work, the inner work of knowing who you are so that you can start growing yourself. And of course, if you focus on the specific areas, different areas that I mentioned earlier, then you will find your way. Because definitely, whatever you do, it's in one of those areas. Where you're called is in one of those areas. So the one that goes deeper for you, that's where you're called to serve.
Wow, wow. The one that really goes deeper is the right one. While on this journey, some people will always be successful and they bring out good results, while other people will find excuses along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Excuses to not start or excuses to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that you mentioned some of those in your book.
Yeah.
Which of these excuses is the most common one, and which one of them do you find most interesting when you engage with your audience during coaching or speaking exercises?
It depends on the individual. Really, it depends on the individual. But people have different excuses and different reasons why they do not really pursue a consistent growth path, and why they do not stay on a specific growth path. They keep changing. Today you're doing this. Today you're pursuing physical education or strength or just exercising. Tomorrow you're in another area. You're just everywhere. Now, what I found early in my journey as a coach, speaker, trainer, because I love to learn. Like I said, I like to read, and that because of that, I am knowledgeable in so many different areas. So because I keep looking for what I call shiny object syndrome. So today something will just catch my attention, and that's what I want to do. I will start doing it, and a particular mentor would fascinate me so much. I'll start following that person and then buy all their courses, all their programs. So shiny object syndrome is something that keeps people from growing. They are focused on so many things at the same time. They've bought so many programs. There's a session I had with one of our friends, Coach BC, and she
Mhm.
talked about all the different programs that she had bought, that she needed to go do an inventory of
Mhm.
all the
Mhm.
programs, courses,
Mhm.
workshops that she had purchased and sitting on the shelf. She's never done anything with most of them. Yeah, because that's what we do. We want to learn, we want to grow, we want to add value, but we keep finding ourselves going in so many directions. So it's important to find out what is your path, what is your unique path, and stay on that path. And that's one of the reasons I wrote this book, because it was a journey for me. One of the things I mentioned, it was a journey for me to discover my path and to stay in it. And when I discovered that, look, what I'm really called to is coaching. I love to coach. I love to facilitate training. Yeah. So, and I decided that that's where I'm going to focus on. And guess what? Opportunities started coming in that area, because I started focusing on developing myself more in those areas. And everything I do, even when I speak as a coach, I train as a coach, and that is my foundation, that is my basis, coaching. It informs every other thing I do, and it brings me fulfillment. But it took me a while to understand that, look, my path is coaching. Yeah.
Wow. Excellent. Your path is coaching. Along your coaching path, the reality is that we're gonna have to interact with people. And
Mhm.
it's not about just saying, "Oh, I want to grow." But while we're growing, we're gonna interact. So, what is the best advice you give somebody that is in that path of growing and being better for themselves? How can they ensure that they treat people the right way while they're achieving all that in such a way that it's not like they're trying to focus only on the goal and they're
Yeah.
just not sensitive enough to people around them and things like that. So, based on your experience, what would be the best advice to as to the right way to interact with
Mm.
people such that they are not preventing you from getting to where you want to get to, but then you're also not creating too many enemies along the way.
Okay. So growth, generally, what I've seen along the way is growth separates you from people. Growth is a natural separator between people who are growing and people who are not growing. It's natural. If you're growing and you're so consistent and focused on your growth, people who are not growing will find it difficult to stay around you. They'll probably find you boring. Okay, so right, so that's one thing. And another thing is we need to realize that we are called to people. As you're adding value to yourself, the reason you're adding value to yourself is so that you can multiply value to others. And when we go out to meet people, I'm an introvert, so growing up, I didn't want to, I didn't like staying around people. I was always on my own. I liked my own space, my own company. I'm very comfortable with that. There's nothing wrong with being an introvert, but an introvert needs to learn how to network, meet people, interact with people, and understand that yes, while you like you love your own company, you're comfortable being by yourself, you can go inwards at all times. It's also important to realize that you can still do that in the midst of people. So you can still go inwards even in the company of others, right? The most important thing is to know you are called to people. There are people out there who are waiting for you, waiting to hear your voice, waiting for you to add value to them specifically. So I believe Let me go there. There's a story in the Bible where Jesus talks about I am a person of faith. So like I read the Bible. I think you do too.
Okay, yes.
Okay, so so he talks about a shepherd that had 100 sheep, and then one sheep went astray. Then he left the 99 and went after the one, and he found it. Okay, so I believe we are called to the one. There is a one you are called to. So until you go after that one, in my trainings, in my coaching, in my speaking engagements, I have learned to go after the one. There may be 1,000 people in the room, but there is a one that I need to go after. So a one could be just one person, it could be 10, it could be hundreds, but being specific with who you are called to, and whatever you do, how you serve, always you can pray, you can do whatever you do, but you know that I am called to the one, and in all that I do, I'm always going to go after the one. Yeah. I don't know
Wow,
if that makes
excellent.
sense, but
It makes a lot of
I
sense. I
stop
mean,
talking.
it's Bible, it's parable. That's one of the things that scares me about the Bible and things like that. How many people will be able to like have a company and think about that such proverb in that context? So like, yeah, if
Yeah.
I have 99, why do I have to worry? So one of the things that I also find very interesting when I listen to people that are doing well in life and I listen to their biography,
Mhm.
two individuals, Steve Harvey and Michelle Obama. In one of their saying that it's the all the, in one of the podcasts and recordings that I've listened to, the idea is that everybody that came with you cannot go further with you.
Mm.
And that's the
Yes.
summary of what such conversation was all about.
Mm.
And it seems that that's the reality
Mhm.
of life, in which case, let's say 20 friends cannot become friends for 20 years. I don't know if that's true.
Well, I totally agree. There's a saying that people come into your life for, I think, a season, a reason, and what's the third one? I've forgotten the third one, but that season one, I think it's really important to understand that people come into our lives for different seasons of our lives. They may stay in that season and maybe leave and come back in another season, but all our friends are in our lives for different seasons. And I believe that when we recognize that people are there for a season and honor them for being there in that season, respect them for being there in that season, love them deeply in that season, then when it's time for them to leave, let them go. They might come back, they may not, but they fulfill their purpose in that season of your life. So 20 friends can be 20 friends for 20 years. That's fine. But then there are different seasons. Some will be there in some seasons and some won't be. You just need to honor that and know that, oh, we may still be friends, but seasons have changed.
Hmm. So they can go and come back. That's
They
what you're
can
saying.
go and come back. They can go and come back.
I mean, it's easy for somebody to say, "Well, I think this person is not at the same level as the same level that I want to be," and the person is living by themselves. All
Hmm.
right.
Hmm.
The most difficult one is when you, as a person, discover, "Well, I want to keep climbing. I don't think this person wants to climb because
Yeah.
they're okay. I'm good. They're good where they are." And growth means that you have to keep climbing.
Yeah.
So the question is, as a person, when do you know for sure that it's time to keep climbing? And if it means leaving the person that doesn't want to climb there, that's what you're gonna do. because it's very difficult to climb and trying to hold another person while climbing, because you both can be there for the rest of your lives while trying to do that. That's the reality of life. But
Yeah.
it's easier to get up and say, well, I'm up already. If you want to come, I can help you come. But how many people want to will still maintain their sanity when they see you up right there? Because they're like, oh, you left me already. Why did you do that? That kind of a thing. So the question
Yeah.
is, when do you know for sure that it's time to like see what I can do? Then I can come back and see what I can do to help this person, because it seems that we cannot both be going at the same time, or else it's going to be counterproductive.
Yeah, I think because growth is a marathon. It's like a marathon, and when we start running the marathon, we start with maybe hundreds, thousands of people, right? And as we keep running, some people go forward, some are left behind. Some catch up, some don't. As you keep running your marathon, some of the people you left behind will catch up, some won't, and it's okay. Now, it's counterproductive for you to say, oh, I'm going to stop running because I'm waiting for my friend, family member, or whoever to catch up before I continue. No, you've got to keep running and wait and just hope and pray that they would catch up. You can give them some tips, ideas. Oh, you can do this, you can train, you can do this if you want to run further and catch up. I've seen so many of my friends who it's happened to me when I started on my journey, really being fully involved, intentional about my growth. A lot of my friends, I left them behind, but so many of them have caught up.
Hmm.
They are growing and doing amazing things. And when I look at them, I'm so proud. I'm so filled with joy because now I left them in a season, and they've come back. They've met me in another season, right?
Mhm.
And that's what life is. That's what growth is. It's like a marathon. We're all running, but you don't hold on to someone that is going to pull you back.
Mhm.
Keep running, give them tips, shout, encourage them from the front, tell them, no, you can catch up. These are things you can do. This is what I did. And you can also do this. And some would listen, some won't. That's how I say it. So it's just I think it's a natural thing. You don't have to do anything to break free. Boundaries, as you're growing, as you're investing in yourself, you're definitely going to create some boundaries naturally. Sometimes you're not even aware you're creating boundaries, you're setting boundaries, but the boundaries are there. And
Wow.
that's how, yeah, it happens naturally. And people will see the boundaries and they will respect it.
Wow. Excellent. Excellent. We're still talking about growing, and this is from your book, The Growing Life. One of the sayings that I saw in the book that I found very interesting is, if you want something you have never had before, you must do something you've never done before.
Mm.
In that case, looking at your growth journey, what would you say that is for you? At what at what point did you do something that you feel that, whoa, I did that, and what was the outcome for you?
Mm. I original. Let me tell you one experience I recall vividly. I'm originally from Cameroon, and I'm married to a Nigerian. So I lived in Nigeria for then it was I had lived in Nigeria for about 12 years. So I'm bilingual. I speak French and English perfectly, but I had never trained or coached in French. Never. So in 2019, a friend of mine called me and said, "Do you speak French?" I said, "Yes."
Mhm.
I have an opportunity. It's a coaching opportunity and it's in French. Do you think you can do it? And fear gripped me. I said, oh my God, I've never done this before. And it's not just, this is an executive coaching, it's not like, it's a top executive that yeah. As all the questions, judgments came, and then something in me said, you speak French. You understand French. What's the difference? You are a coach. You've coached so many people before. What is the difference? You can't, it's just a language and you know it. So I said, yes. That's how I started my journey coaching in French and training in French. I recall the first time I was put in a room of executives to train in French. And I had been forewarned, it was in Gabon. And a friend of mine said, Kate, Gabon is pure French. Are you sure you're going to be able to do this? He said, they are very intolerant with English. So are you sure you can do it? And I said, yes, I can do it. So that's, for me, that was really scary. That's something that I had never done before. That when I crossed that barrier, it became natural for me. Now I coach, I train, I facilitate trainings in French. And it's always very rewarding to see the transformation that happens. And I'm also being part of the Maxwell Leadership Francophone has been a game changer for me as well, to develop myself more in that area. Because when I noticed, I said, okay, this is where this is another calling, another another side to my calling. So I need to invest in it. So I started investing in that area as well. Developing myself more into training and development in French.
Wow, excellent. So you were born in Cameroon, that's what you said, right?
Born and raised.
Also, at what point did you came into Nigeria, and what's the cultural difference between Cameroon and Nigeria?
I came to Nigeria in 2007 after my marriage. Yeah, so the first time that wasn't the first time I had been to Nigeria. I'd been to Nigeria like 2 or 3 times prior to moving finally after I got married. So, and my husband lived in Port Harcourt. Well, he didn't live, he had just moved to Port Harcourt. So he had not even lived in Port Harcourt himself. Yeah. And that was at the heat of the militancy in the Niger Delta. So when I got there, I saw these militants with guns, army, police with guns, and I was so scared. I kept asking, are we expecting war? Is there going to be a war? Why are there so many people with guns in the streets? That was really funny, but not so funny because guns are scary, especially when you see them every day. And when you're driving and you start hearing shooting, random shootings, then you have to hide, and that was really scary. Then another thing that I noticed, the culture, the Nigerians they're very, what would I say? Cameroonians are more, well, Nigerians are very driven. Yes, let me put it that way. They are very driven, very aggressive. They are go-getters, and they can be loud.
Yeah. Yes, we are.
So yeah, so that was a bit shocking, and of course that was different from where I'm coming from, and I found it interesting. But then I got used to the people. I made some amazing friends and family then, and right now I think I adopted some of that Nigerian a lot of that Nigerian spirit, because I recall one of my sisters, she's just last week I ordered something for her and it came damaged, and she said, just leave it. It's just, one of those things. It happens. And I said, no, it doesn't happen. I must push to see that this thing gets corrected. And she said, no, don't be so aggressive. I said, no, 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 no. It's not about being aggressive. It's about people doing what they're supposed to do. Yeah, I'm not saying all that it doesn't happen elsewhere, but Nigerians, there's this push that they make sure that they get what they deserve. That's one thing I noticed when I got to Nigeria, and people are very pushful. They may not always get what they want, what they deserve, but they're still gonna push for it until they get to a point where they say, okay, I can no longer push. But Nigerians, I think they're resilient, very resilient, and that's something that I learned and that I liked. Yeah, so as I kept building, as I started my business and built it, that resilient spirit helped me to keep pushing until I see a breakthrough, until I see some positive results coming in.
Wow, excellent. Well, I didn't know you were from Cameroon. You passed for a Nigerian, I must say that. And you it did well for you. You married a Nigerian. That's good. I cannot even tell you how many people that came to me and are still coming to me and tell me that I'm too strong.
Oh,
Yeah, I was like, what are you guys talking about? What do you mean I'm too strong? I'm just myself.
yeah,
Then,
you can't know because it's natural for you.
yeah, I understand. It's a cultural thing.
It is a
It's
cultural
a
thing.
cultural thing. One of the things, and I see that we're running out of time. One of the story that I also find very interesting in your book, The Growing Life, is
Yeah.
when you worked in a restaurant with your mom.
Oh, yeah.
How was the experience doing that, and what are the lessons you learned from that?
That was my first exposure to entrepreneurship. And my mom is a very entrepreneurial woman. She's, as long as I remember growing up, she's always doing one business or the other. You can't keep her down. She's always thinking of how to make money.
Mhm.
And she keeps saying the only thing that makes her happy is having money in her hands. Money makes my mom happy. Of course. Okay, so that was my first exposure to entrepreneurship, and it shaped me. I think that shaped me to see that no matter what I do, no matter where I am, I can make money. And then my mom is a very good financial planner. That's not one thing I think I got from her. I'm still struggling with financial planning, but I
Mhm.
think I'm getting it. Yeah, but I learned how to be entrepreneurial from my mom because from working in her restaurant, serving, it also helped me to learn to serve others really at a very young age. And I got exposed to how to do business from start from somewhere, from just the raw materials, and then get to the finished products, and then see the money coming in, and then seeing how the money is being used to grow the business. Yeah, investing and reinvesting in the business, that helped me. So as I left home and went um, to university, I realized that, oh, I love to be around business people. In my second year in university, I started looking for opportunities to work, to sell. So I got sales jobs. Yeah, sales jobs. I worked as a sales girl at a trade fair, and then I got a sales job in a clothing shop. That also exposed me to entrepreneurship and to understand that it's important. entrepreneurship is really what drives the economy. That as an entrepreneur, you have to be resilient, you have to push, and you need to put your eyes on the money.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
you say that like a Nigerian now. So there's some that's a lot of cultural shock that is around that. So back home, you interact with people when you're when you're on the road, you don't know the road, you can easily approach anybody and ask, "Oh, I'm trying to go to this place, and can you show me the way? Can you direct me in the right path?" I discovered in America that is called stalking. That means you're stalking somebody. That's criminal. There's so many things that that's why people depend more on their GPS than trying to approach a stranger about, "Oh, this is where I'm going," and things like that. Very
Yeah.
different, very different
Yeah.
culture. Last question for today. Based on everything we've discussed, based on your experiences growing, if you could go back and do anything differently during your growth journey, what would you do differently?
Oh, what would I do differently? I think what I'll do differently is not to get involved in so many programs at the same time. I think that's one thing I will do differently because I spent a lot of time, energy, money buying courses, resources that I never really used. And some are still sitting down. I have lifetime access to some websites that I've not used. Okay, so that's something I would do differently. Not investing, really think about where I want to go, where I want to, doing that deep work earlier. That's what I think I would do. Do the deep work early to know my path and then invest in resources aligned with my path early, instead of going everywhere,
Hmm.
doing a lot of things. Yeah. So that's what I would do differently.
Wow,
Yeah.
excellent, excellent. So, our viewers, we are talking about the growing life. I'm with my awesome, versatile guest, Kate Onamokoya. She's now a Nigerian. We adopted her already.
Okay, now that we're at the end, I'll say Onakomaiya.
Onakomaiya. Onakomaiya. Thank you so much for the correction. Onakomaiya. And your husband is from
Ogun State.
Ogun State. Oh, okay. We can talk
Yeah.
about that off the line. I'm also from Ogun State.
All right.
Also from Ogun State. Is there anything you want to share with our audience before we go today?
Yeah. So one thing I would love to share with them is okay, this book. I think this book, you need to get this book whether you are starting off on your growth journey or you're already taking some steps towards growing, because it will encourage you to keep following that path of growth. And it will also let you know that you're not alone and that everybody started from somewhere, and you just have to keep going and staying on the path of growth. Don't be discouraged. Growth is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And one thing, there's help. There is help everywhere. Don't think you can go alone. You can't go alone. We all need help, and help is available. So don't be an island, don't be lonely. Growth is rewarding, but it's more rewarding when you are growing with others.
Wow, excellent, excellent. My guest, Kate Onakomaiya. I got it right
Yeah,
now. Right, good,
perfect.
good. Thank you so much for being here. It's been an awesome time having this very interesting and very elaborating and educative discussion with you. I hope our viewers are able to learn one or two things. Until next time on Solution Illuminator Series podcast, thank you for joining and thank you for my guest, Kate Onakomaiya. Thank you so much for being here.